there's an essential problem with an organic, holistic consciousness. It has to self-organize. It can't be an artificial organization made by people. As soon as you begin to try to make it into an organization, you're dogmatic, crystallized, and it becomes part of the process that's creating the problem.
I feel like I'm gonna die sooner or later. I don't know how long, maybe tomorrow, maybe after this interview, maybe here I have a heart attack and then I'm goodbye, or maybe in 10 years, I don't know when, but I know I'm going to die. So when you realize that you're going to die, the question is where you want to be spending your time and with who.
I do think you still have that influence that you say you don't have, because you're a person in the public profile who's got the benefit of such amazing insight and experience. I go back to that again, and I just feel that your legacy should be in that area. Your legacy and should be in the area that you are still being as vocal as you've always been, and you can still make a real noise in this kind of area of trying something different. That's what I feel you have the power to do.
Well, I'm very flattered by your confidence in me, but if I could do that, I would have done it a long time ago.
One of the reasons why I have a very unique and outspoken approach on this, at least from a global perception, is I'm in South Africa. I'm seeing the unemployment, the homelessness, it's skyrocketing. And I talk to these people. A lot of them are my friends. And they tell me that things are worse than it's ever been before.
For me, I've got friends who've been in the army, but from your perspective, from what you saw on the ground, from what you've seen so far, in terms of the information we're all aware of now compared to then, what is it that you saw on the ground that really sort of affected you, like mentally, and also gave you maybe other challenges that you went through, which were, something you maybe didn't even expect when you were in the army and all the places you served, especially Afghanistan?
Yeah, when I went out to other countries like Northern Ireland, it was very different from going out to Iraq or Afghanistan. And they're very much conventional wars. Obviously, Iraq and Afghanistan are not conventional wars. You're fighting against someone that's going to put his gun down, and he's going to look like anybody else on that street.
And man, I gotta be tough through it, man. Like it just sucks, bro. Like, I'm away from my grandma right now, and to hear she passed, it's stressful, man.
When it's random, I'm a cork in the ocean bobbing around going this way and that. But when I've got intention, the universe is the cork, and I'm the ocean.
Is that what is known as synchronicity? Is that how you are actually causing synchronicity to occur in your everyday sort of moments?
Yes. As soon as you're on the path where you're working towards the betterment of why you're here, you're at least on the path of trying to find out what it might be, right? Instead of just, I've got a job, I wake up with the alarm clock and work all day and come back home and have dinner and go to bed to another alarm clock. I'm here to find out, why am I here? What's my purpose? And as soon as I do that, I'm walking that path, and the universe will start to throw synchronicities at me to help me in that quest.
As someone who's consumed music, I can only imagine that the levels of energy that I can take myself to just by listening to music. I can only imagine how that must feel when you're the creator of that music, when the sound's coming from your body, your physical sort of space. And I think I've always wondered that. As a young child, I always wondered, how did Pavarotti feel when he just blew out that sound from the depths of his soul? And we felt the power of it. So how must he have felt as being the vehicle that was bringing it out? Public disdain towards politicians has come as a result of this kind of situation. And that's why there's such a huge divide between the politics and the politicians and the members of the public and the general society. And I think that, to me, is a troubling, most worrying thing that I feel has happened and occurred over this last year in particular. Is that the scope with levels of nootropics that are already available? Are there, from your research, kind of a list of things and supplements that just enhance our mental, cognitive, as well as physical, and in effect our aging process as well.
So I guess what I would say is there might be, right? So one of the problems with the unregulated supplements is they never get tested in rigorous clinical trials. And so you're left with sort of anecdotal, oh, I took this and it made me feel better kind of stuff, right? So absolutely, there are natural products, things that are unregulated that in animal models seem to target the hallmarks of aging. What hasn't been demonstrated convincingly, at least to me, is that any of them have robust effects in humans.
I've had one of those last few weeks where things are just coming to me and I'm sort of going with whatever my heart's telling me to do. And your connection was one of those. And the reason is because breathwork, firstly, was a key thing that I'm sort of including in some of the conversations that I'm having. I loved the fact that you were in Zurich. I've been there once and I know it's a beautiful part of the world. So it just kind of all made a lot of sense to speak to you as one of the many kind of experts in the area of breathwork, really, because that's a really, it's a well-known and it's growing in its prevalence, and it's kind of more and more people are accessing this free resource that we all have.
Yeah, it's wild actually that how accessible. It's the most democratic healing tool that exists. Everyone has access to it.
Like, why don't we create a world where we're working 20 hours a week and we've eliminated poverty and we're able to engage in stuff that's important to us, paid or unpaid, that we actually value all of our contributions regardless of whether there's some kind of monetary exchange involved. And let's actually set metrics where, let's strive for people living longer and living healthier and being happier. Let's create economies that work for human beings and for thriving, instead of just telling people that they have to do this or that in order to survive and watching all these horrible things happen as a result. So it's not only a choice of a voting dystopia, but let's actually look to what we can create and imagine that and make that happen.
In a climate where fear is so amplified right now, I think that's something that we're all noticing. Is if we watch the news, it's just fear-based. If we consume conversations amongst crowds of people who are responding to this pandemic, even, there is fear that has amplified for every single one of us. I think for me personally, I'm not a fearful person naturally. I'm a very optimistic person naturally, but even I'm experiencing phases and stages of where you get quite fearful about some of the things that are happening. I don't know if that's because I'm a parent as well. I don't know if it's because, we're a bit older and we do start thinking about our mortality and all sorts of other kind of things that maybe instill a little bit of fear.
I can say what I want, and I certainly do.
Yeah.
But I'm outraged by the lack of guideline and guidance and information from the WHO, the World Health Organization. What the hell is that name? If you have the name of your company or whatever that is, organization, I know they're sponsored by the big pharma. That's not a conspiracy theory. We know that. We can look where the money is coming from. But if you call yourself the World Health Organization, you better take care of the health and care about it deeply, and they don't.
The Seekers. The Seekers. The Seekers.